Your website is slow, and because of that, your clients are leaving your website because it takes too long to load, which means you're probably losing revenue, and you're probably not making as many sales as you could be. I'm gonna show you guys how to speed up your website, meaning your bounce rate is gonna go down, your engagement is gonna go up, your user experience is gonna get better, you're gonna get higher conversions on your website, and it's gonna rank better on Google. Now, I'm gonna level with you. There's an easy way to this, and there's a hard way to all of this. The easy way is just downloading a single plugin and letting it do all of the work for you. I'll tell you what settings to set and what checkboxes to check, and your page speed is gonna get faster. The hard way really isn't even that hard. I'm just gonna explain to you how your website works, how the internet works, how your servers work, and then how Google ranks your site based on all of those things. When you understand how everything works, you'll be able to fix all of the issues that a plugin would attempt to fix for you. Remember, anything automatic is never personalized. It's always better if you put a personal touch for the best results. So if all you're looking for is just a quick fix, then just watch the first half of this video and you're done. But if you're looking for a little bit more knowledge as to how everything works and how you can avoid these issues in the future, go ahead and stick around for the second half of this video. Now, a really quick disclaimer here, this video is not meant to be a step-by-step tutorial because every website runs differently and it's gonna have different reasons why it's not running fast. So I'm here to show you guys a ton of different ideas that you can check and try and make improvements with in the places that your website needs it the most. Let's jump right into the easy way first. If we wanna speed up our website, we have to talk to our computer like a computer, not like a person. Our computer understands things like DNS speeds, caching, HTML size minification, and page load speeds and sizes. Now, I know that sort of thing makes no sense to people, but that's what optimization plugins are for. They translate all of that computer talk for you, and they help you speed up your website so that you don't have to become a web wizard in order to make things happen. I'm gonna have you download an optimization plugin called WP Rocket. All right, so in order to get WP Rocket on your computer or on your WordPress dashboard, what we're gonna do is from your dashboard, go over to the Plugins tab and then click on Add New, just like this. From here, you're not going to be able to search it with the search bar. Instead, we're going to go to the plugin or the upload plugin button at the top of your screen right here. And then we're going to have the option to upload the plugin from our computer files. So in order to actually get the plugin, we just have to go over to their website and you'll see that they have 3 different plans for you. I always just recommend the single plan. You get one website and that's what we're going to be speeding up. It's $59 for the year, which basically just comes out to $5 a month. So pretty affordable, $5 a month and you're having a faster website. So from here, we'll go to buy WP Rocket, and then we'll go ahead and fill out our billing information. So give me just a second. All right, once you finish your payment, you'll be able to download WP Rocket. So just click on the button and it's going to download immediately to your computer, as you can see. From here, all we're going to do is just upload this file to our website. So all you got to do is open up the file in your computer, just like this. And then on our plugins page, the exact same place we were, you're just going to click on choose file right here and go ahead and upload it from your computer. All right, and just like that, we're actually not going to click on activate plugin, but we have successfully installed the plugin, so we're good to go. We want to leave it deactivated because in just a couple seconds, we're going to check our page speed score. Now, there could be a ton of reasons why your website is running slow. When we want our site to rank well, we always are talking about making Google happy, right? Because you want to rank high on the Google search engine because everyone uses it. So let's pay attention to what Google has to say about our website. That's why we're going to be using Google's PageSpeed Insights. So the first order of business is checking out our page speed score before we install the plugin. Then we're going to activate the plugin and optimize our site. And then when we're done, we're going to go back and check our page speed score again after making those changes. It's pretty simple. In order to analyze your website with PageSpeed Insights, just go to the website tool, enter in your full website URL, and then click on Analyze. Now you can see the results for your website. All right, so now we have an idea of our website and what it's looking like in the eyes of Google in terms of speed. Let's go ahead and jump back into our WordPress website and activate the WP Rocket plugin, and let's make a few changes to the settings. All right, so you guys saw just a second ago how bad I'm getting on performance on this website. So we're getting a solid 42 out of 100 for performance. Everything else we're doing great. Accessibility, best practices, SEO, and all of that. But we've got to fix this 42. So in order to fix that, we're finally going to go over to our plugins tab again. Let's go to installed plugins. And earlier on, you guys saw me download WP Rocket, and then we used the upload button to install it onto our website. So now we can finally activate our WP Rocket plugin. So I'm going to click on activate right here. Okay, so now that we've activated WP Rocket, we can either click on the settings button right here, or if at any point you're somewhere else on your website and you want to go to WP Rocket, you'll see under the settings tab that now we can see WP Rocket right here. So let's go ahead and open it up, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of close out of these tabs because we don't really need them. We'll come back to PageSpeed Insights. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave this one open so that we can come back and paste later. All right, so now welcome to your WP Rocket dashboard. So we're gonna go one by one down all of these settings over here, and I'll show you guys which ones to do. Now again, this is not a step-by-step tutorial on how to speed up your website because everyone's website runs differently. But I am gonna show you kind of what settings I usually run on most websites when I build them for clients, just kind of as like a topical level of speed enhancement. And so we'll just kind of go there. But anyways, under your dashboard, you'll notice that you have some stuff here. We can always remove all cached files. So whenever we make changes, we can always clear and preload the cache. You'll see your license right here, and you can view your WP account whenever you want to by just clicking on this, and it'll redirect you. You've got Rocket CDN, and if you guys stick around to later on in the video, I explain to you guys what a CDN is. It's a content delivery network, and so basically it means having servers all around the world with your website loaded, so it'll just distribute your website to people from closer servers, so it doesn't take so long. This is a huge step to increasing the website speed whenever you have clients in different countries other than yourself. If you're not doing like a global market or a global audience, then you don't necessarily need a CDN, but I wanted to show you guys that you guys can sign up for WP Rocket CDN. So it's called Rocket CDN right there. That's just another service they provide, so that's all it is. I'm just explaining it. And then you can scroll on down. You've got the My Status Rocket Analytics, and it's basically just asking if you want to share anonymous data with the development team to make the plugin better. That's up to you guys. I'm just going to leave it off for now because this is a demo website. And then other than that, you just got some FAQs and getting started, which are like some video tutorials on how to, use the software. So that's your WP Rocket dashboard. So let's go ahead and move on to the first one, which is your cache. And so under your cache, we've got mobile cache. You're going to want to make sure that this one is checked right here, and that's to enable caching for mobile devices. And so you've got this separate option right here for a separate cache for mobile devices. You don't really need to check this box unless you've got like an older theme. Most new themes are going to be optimized for mobile caches, so you don't really need to do this. And again, most of the time when you install this plugin, it's going to be kind of optimized to automatically start speeding your website up. So you'll notice that most checkboxes that I'm talking about are already going to be checked. That's totally fine. The whole point is you just download the plugin and it's good to go. But I just wanted to give you guys a quick run through. So that's enabling your mobile devices. All right, so after the mobile cache, we have the user cache. And so the user cache is basically just a cache that's special for if you have a bunch of users constantly logging into your WordPress website. If you don't have a bunch of people logging into your website, you don't really need to enable this box. If you do, however, you can go ahead and enable this checkbox right here. Okay, and lastly, we have the cache lifespan. And so right now it's set to 10 hours. I'm just gonna leave it like that. You guys can always increase it or decrease it depending on what you guys wanna do. You will see right here that it says reduce the lifespan of 10 hours or less if you notice issues that seem to appear periodically, and then they explain to you why. So if you guys for some reason increase it above 10 hours and you start noticing some issues like something breaks on your website or something's not working properly, then just reduce it to 10 or less and see if that fixes the problem is basically what they're saying. So once you make sure that your cache is good to go and you've got your mobile caching set up, you can go ahead and click on Save Changes just like this. All right, and then we can go ahead and move on over here to the next one, which is file optimization. And also, by the way, you can always hide the sidebar that's right over here. It's completely up to you. I just don't really care. But I also forgot to mention that little option. Okay, so under file optimization, we're going to be doing things to your CSS files and your JavaScript files, and they don't really have an option for HTML minification. So again, later on, the hard part of the video is where I'm going to explain how everything works. So you'll have a much better understanding and a technical understanding of how all this works. But again, the first half of the video, which is the easy way, is just to get you in, get you out the door as fast as possible and have your website sped up a little bit. So I'm not really going to spend too much time explaining what all this stuff does. We're just going to go ahead and check boxes. Okay, so WP Rocket does a good job of minifying your CSS files. However, you'll see that whenever I check this box, it's going to give you a little warning and it's going to say, hey, this could break things. And they're kind of right. When you minify CSS files, basically what you're doing is removing all spaces, commas, you're shortening it, you're compressing it, you're making it a lot smaller. So it's way harder to read, but it's a lot faster to load, if that makes sense. And so technically, because you are adjusting the code of your website, you could break things, but all you have to do if it does break something is just come back in here to WP Rocket and uncheck the box. So it's pretty easy. So what I always recommend is activate it because minifying CSS files, well, technically minifying any files, whether it be JavaScript, HTML, or CSS on your website is always going to improve your PageSpeed Insights. okay? Because you're minifying your files. You're making them smaller, so it's faster to send across from your server to your computer. So I would recommend checking the box. And then before you check any of the other boxes, go over to your website. You're going to want to obviously save your changes. You can go to the dashboard, clear the preload cache. And then you'll want to go and open up your website on a new tab. So I'm assuming you guys know how to open up your website on a new tab. And this is where you would scroll through your website, interact with everything, and make sure nothing broke. You know, like now, whenever I click on this, it doesn't link. Or whenever I click on this button, it doesn't display a picture, whatever. You'd want to go through your entire website and just double check that nothing broke. And then when you determine that nothing broke, you can go ahead and move on to the next one. And you'll check the next box, say activate, and then you'll want to save your changes and then go back, refresh your page, and double check that nothing broke. It's a little bit of a time-consuming process, but I would definitely recommend it. That's how you know if something broke or not. And if this is your website and this is your baby, this is important to your business, then I would definitely recommend kind of one by one, you check the box, go check if it broke something. Check the box, check if it broke something. Most of the time, it's not going to break anything. Trust me. I've optimized lots of websites in the past, and most of the time, you just kind of check these boxes and submit, and you're done. But if you have any kind of a special plugin or something third party or something that's out of date, it might break. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And again, if something breaks, you can just come back in here and uncheck the box. Easy peasy. But anyways, we're going to minify your CSS files, which kind of reduces their size, removes white space, removes comments and all of that size stuff. And it also reduces your file size. But you also get an option to exclude CSS files. So you can basically pick which CSS files you don't want it to minify if there's something super special. This would be pretty technical if you wanted to determine what CSS files you don't want to exclude or that you do want to exclude. So I would say that this is more for an intermediate or advanced web designer who knows what they actually want to exclude. I'll tell you what though, most of the time, if ever, most of the time, you're not really going to need to exclude anything. So just check the box, call it a day, and just double check that nothing broke. With all that out of the way, we can go ahead and also optimize our CSS delivery. And so we can check this box right here. And again, it gave me that little warning and said, hey, double check this isn't going to break anything. But then afterwards, it doesn't give you the warning anymore. So just a heads up. But we're going to optimize our CSS delivery right here. So I was checking my notes. And so underneath optimizing your CSS delivery, you'll see right here that it's basically just going to eliminate render blocking right here, and that they recommend using this option, unused CSS, or removing it, as opposed to the load asynchronously. My goodness, I can't say that word sometimes. Okay, so we're just going to go with the recommended option, again, just to go nice, fast, and easy. So optimize, you check the box. Remove unused CSS is the option we're choosing, not this option. And so we'll just check this one, accept, and it's going to ask if you want to exclude anything, and so we can just leave it there. Okay, so next we have our JavaScript files. All right, so we have the first option, which is, again, pretty obvious, minifying your JavaScript files, and it's the same thing as minifying your CSS files. It's going to shrink it, remove white space, reduce the size, remove comments, all of that stuff. And it's going to take it from looking nice and legible to looking like a giant paragraph of code. So we're going to check the box again and activate and minify the script. So we're good to go. And again, you would just check the box, go double check and refresh and make sure everything works, and you would come back. Okay, so we minify the JavaScript files. Next, we can choose to combine the JavaScript files, which is different from optimizing. Okay, so when we combine JavaScript files, what happens is for your website, you've got JavaScript files all over your website for customization control and stuff like that. Your JavaScript files, there's tons of them on your website. And so this kind of depends, and it even mentions it kind of right here, what HTTP type you're using, if you have HTTP 1.1 or if you have HTTP 2, because HTTP 1.1 loads, I guess, sequentially, for lack of better words, like it loads one at a time, as opposed to HTTP 2, which is like the current version or the newer version, which uploads concurrently. So basically it loads all of them at the same time, rather than having to load one until it's done, then load the next one, then load the next one. It's all at the same time. So this option is kind of optional. We've got combining JavaScript files. So if there's a ton of them on your website and you're loading with HTTP 1.1, so they all load one at a time, if you combine all of them into one, then it's kind of the same thing as loading all of them at the same time with HTTP 2. So this is kind of like a little workaround for HTTP 1 if you don't have HTTP 2, if that makes any sense. So if you combine them all, you're loading them all at the same time, even though they're individual files. So when you check this box, again, it could break things. So you just check it, save changes, go check your website. But if it doesn't break things and you're only using HTTP 1.1, then you'll notice that it actually increases the speed. Now, if you're using HTTP 2, which already can load all of them at the same time concurrently, there's really no reason to combine your JavaScript files because it can load all of them at the same time anyways. There are ways of determining if your website is run on a server that uses HTTP 2 or 1.1. I think it's like KeyCDN or something like that. Here, let me see if I can find it for you. I think it's KeyCDN. Content delivery made easy. Yeah, and then they have a tool. Here, let me see here. Here we go. Yep, HTTP2 test. And so this is the tool right here for key CDN. You would just put in your URL right here. So if I paste my URL just like this and test, you'll see that I am using HTTP2. And that's because I'm using Hostinger, which, not to give a shout out to Hostinger, but I'm totally going to. Hostinger does a fantastic job of having every avenue covered when it comes to speed. And one of the options is they use HTTP2. So that's cool. That's how you can determine if you have it. And so going back to our website, I don't really need to check this box, but if you're not running HTTP2, you can combine right here. But you'll notice that it says that it is not recommended if you're using 2. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to leave this unchecked, but if you go over there and test and you find out you're not using 2, you can go ahead and check this box. So it's totally up to you guys. All right, so underneath combined JavaScript files, we've got load JavaScript, deferred, and delay JavaScript execution. And these are kind of self-explanatory. It's just saying that we're going to load the JavaScript later, like it's going to push it off. And so you'll see that it says to load JavaScript deferred, eliminates render blocking on your site and can improve load time. Okay, so we're going to check this box right here. And basically this is just going to pause your JavaScript from loading until after all of the important stuff loads, like all of your first images, all of your CSS files, and all of that stuff. So it's basically going to load all of the important stuff first and then load all of your JavaScript afterwards, which is going to help with your PageSpeed Insights score. So we're going to check this box right here, save changes, go double check it didn't break anything. And then when you come down here, we've got the last one, which is delay JavaScript execution. You'll check this box right here. It's going to, again, delay your JavaScript execution. So improves performance by delaying the loading of JavaScript files until after the user interaction, which is like your time to interaction speed, right? Where is it? Total blocking time plays a view in it. Yeah, time to interactive right here, which is one of the metrics, but they don't even show it here anymore. They used to show all 6, but now it's just 5. But time to interactive is basically how long it takes until someone can actually interact with your website, like it's done loading. So that is what delaying your JavaScript is going to help with. And then also, whenever you check this box, again, anytime you check one of these boxes, it can either break, it can sometimes break something. If you notice that something on your website breaks or isn't loading correctly, instead of just completely unchecking this box, you can go over here to all of these common services and you can decide which one of these you have on your website and disable it first. So for example, if I'm running Google Maps on my website and for some reason, whenever I check that box, I've noticed that the Google Maps isn't working anymore, I can come back in here and exclude Google Maps from my delayed JavaScript execution. And then your Google Maps should work correctly, if that makes any sense. So instead of just completely turning this off, you can still have the delay and then just exclude whatever's breaking, if that makes sense. And so you've got analytics and ads, you've got plugins that you can open up down here, like Elementor, WP Forms Lite, which I'm using. As you can see, I've got WP Forms on here. I've got Elementor on here. I've got Monster Insights on here, which is somewhere right there, Monster Insights. So you might want to check some of those if you notice things breaking. And then you also have themes as well right here, which it's going to be Astra and the Astra carousel. So you might want to check this box if you notice some things breaking before you just completely turn off delay of JavaScript. But delaying your JavaScript execution is going to help increase the speed of your website. So hopefully everything works for you. And then we can come down here and click on Save Changes. All right, so now we have saved our changes. Under the dashboard, we could always come over here and remove all cache files or just remove the used CSS cache. And then we could come over and refresh our page and just make sure that everything's working properly, which it is going to work properly. So we're good to go. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and go over to the media tab next. All right, so now we have lazy load right here. And what lazy load does is kind of self-explanatory. It lazily loads your images as you scroll. Okay, so basically, if I go back to my website right here, I've got this image right here, and then I scroll on down, and I've got this picture, and this picture, and this picture. Okay, what lazy load is going to do, so this option right here, whenever I enable it for images, what it's going to do is it's only going to load the images that are visible in my viewport, which this is my viewport, right? What I'm looking at right now. So only this picture is going to load. And then if I scroll on down, now that I'm looking at this picture would load. And then now that I scroll down and I look at this picture and this one, both of these are going to load. But anything below what I'm not looking at is not loading. So for example, as soon as I disable it, so I'm not using lazy load, what happens is whenever I refresh the page, all of my images load at the same time, all the way down my website, which can take way too long for the initial loading process, which is what PageSpeed likes to score your website on. So what you can do is you can delay the loading of this picture because it's not in view. We just want this one to load fast while I'm looking at it. And then later on, if I scroll down, this one can load. So that's what lazy loading does. just as a rule of thumb, by the way. Now, just a heads up, if you guys are using Elementor on your website, Elementor, like its newest versions, automatically has image lazy loading built in. So you'll notice that whenever I refresh this page, it looks like lazy loading is already happening. Because for example, I'm going to look at this picture and I scroll on down. Well, okay, it's not doing it because it's a cached version of my website. So I would have to come over here, Control-Shift-C. I'd have to do a hard cache reload. And let's see if this does it. I might have to open this up on a new incognito tab to actually show you guys what I mean. So now if I scroll down, well, it kind of did it. It's kind of fast, but it's loading. Okay. Well, what I'm trying to show you guys is Elementor automatically does lazy load. So these pictures don't load unless you're already looking at them. And so if you guys don't believe me, you can always Google it. And you'll see what is lazy loading right here. And you'll see that lazy loading is actually built into Elementor. Let's see if I can find it really quickly for you. Well, I thought I could try and find it for you really fast, but just trust me, Elementor has it built in automatically. So you actually don't really need to check these boxes here, but if you want to, you can just kind of cover your bases and say, I want lazy loading enabled. So this is for your images. You can do it for your CSS background images as well. And then also for iframes and videos. You really don't necessarily need to do this one, but you can if you want to. You just check the box. And then down below, we have image dimensions, which has to do with missing image dimensions. I usually don't check this box because I use Elementor, but you guys can check this box if you have images that seem too cropped in where you're not actually cropping the image, but they actually show up as cropped and it's because of like some CSS issues. I don't usually have that problem with Elementor, so I never have to check this box, but that's what it does. So there you go. So whenever you guys are done, click on Save Changes. And we will move on to the preload, which is the next tab right here. Okay, and yet again, like I told you earlier, WP Rocket, when you download the plugin, already has all of its basic functions enabled to make it really easy for you guys to just download the plugin and instantly see results. So you'll remember the cache was already checked, and then these aren't checked because they could break something. Under media, those weren't checked because, I don't know. But anyways, under preload, you'll see that it's automatically checked for both of these. You'll want these enabled. So preloading basically just stores cached versions of your website. So you'll see it right here. They enable preloading on WP Rocket will automatically detect your sitemaps and have all saved URLs to the database. The plugin will make sure that your cache is always preloaded. So you want to have this one checked. And then you'll see preloaded links as well. And so what this is going to do is link preloading improves the perceived load time by downloading a page when a user hovers over the link. So basically exactly this link right here. If I hover over this link, it'll actually preload this link before I even click on it, so that when I click on it, it looks like it loaded faster. But basically what it did was it just loaded it in the background just because I hovered my mouse over it. So this can make it look, as you can see, perceived load time. It can make it look like it load faster, even though it loaded the same amount of time. It just did it in the background. So you want to enable this one because it's a pretty nice feature to have. And then prefetching DNS requests and preloading fonts. Preloading fonts, like if you have Google fonts or something like that, that take a little longer to load as opposed to the regular fonts that are inside of your theme. Sometimes having Google fonts that take longer to load can add to your cumulative layout shift, which is this one right here. But if you're using an up-to-date theme like Astra, and you're using Elementor, both of them support Google fonts, so you're not really gonna have that issue. And most of the time I'm just using Google fonts anyways because they're great. So for most of you guys out there that are following tutorials on YouTube like mine, and you're already using Elementor and your theme is Astra, you really don't need to preload your fonts, but this is where you can kind of custom add these fonts if you want to. A little bit more of an advanced step, so I'm just gonna skip over these two. We're kind of just checking boxes and going here. Okay, so after preload, we can go ahead and scroll on down. I'm not really gonna touch on advanced rules because that can get kind of complicated, and we've got database right here, which I'm not really going to check any of these. Most of these are just cleanup for your comments, your posts, your database cleanup right here. You guys can decide to choose these if you want to. I'm just going to leave them undone. The next one is your CDN tab. And again, this is like asking if you want to add on another additional service. That's their content delivery network, $7.99 a month. And this is for if you have a global audience and you're trying to reach people that are in different countries. Again, the whole idea behind it is if I'm in America and I'm viewing a website and their server is in Europe, it'll take a lot longer. So if they had another server in America as well as in Europe, then whenever I visit their website, it would only send the website from their server in America because it's closest to me. And so again, if you're not having visitors that are viewing your website from like all over the world and you only care about the people that are in your country, you don't really need a CDN, especially if you're like a small business and you're just trying to attract people to your brick and mortar, or if you're a small business and you're doing like service-based goods where you're basically saying like, hey, come use my landscaping company or come use my construction company or something like that, and you're only helping people in your local area, there's no reason you need a CDN. it's not really going to help you. So anyways, this is their CDN service. You guys can choose to get started and you have it all integrated in one place with one plugin, and you're already paying for their plugin. So that's your idea there. We're going to skip the CDN. Next, we have Heartbeat. And so Heartbeat, again, it's already checked by default from WP Rocket. So that's good to have. Your Heartbeat is basically like once every 1 minute, I think, information is being sent back to your server for any changes that you make to your website or something like that. So you can control the heartbeat, and you'll see that it's going to reduce the activity that will change your heartbeat frequency from each minute to every 2 minutes, as you can see. And so it's reducing activity, reducing activity, reducing activity. We can, again, just leave the default settings here. Just click on Save Changes, and you're good to go. And then next you have add-ons, which is just, again, an advertisement basically just saying, hey, do you want to add this plugin, or this plugin? They even have an add-on for Cloudflare, which is funny. But anyways, we've got image optimization, which is next. And image optimization is not done inside of WP Rocket. You have to download their plugin that they created, which is Imagify. And if you guys stick around to the second half of the video, which is quote unquote the hard part, that's where I talk about Imagify for a second. And I just mentioned that you can either optimize your images inside or outside of WordPress. I personally do it outside of WordPress, but if you want to do it inside of WordPress automatically, you can download their plugin right here. And then it'll seamlessly integrate into your WP Rocket, and you'll have the plugin over here on your left-hand side. Image optimization I talk about later on in the video, so to keep things short for the easy way, you don't really need to know about it. Just optimize your images. Whether you want to go learn about it yourself, if you want to use their plugin, that's up to you guys. And then you have tools and tutorials, which you don't really need to do. Okay, so that's everything. We went down each one of these tabs and we talked about what they do so you can decide whether or not it's right for you. And again, speeding up your website is more of a trial and error kind of process. There's no like one way to do it. So that's why you kind of go through here, like with your minifying, you check it and then you go and check your website. And then you go and check the next one and you check your website. Basically just see how much you can get away with without breaking something. And most of the time, you're not really going to break anything because most softwares are so up to date and updated. Everyone's aware of everyone's software that they all want to work with each other. So anyways, whenever you're done, just make sure you saved all of your changes, and then we can go and check our PageSpeed Insights score again. All right, now that we've completed all of our changes inside of WP Rocket, let's head back over to PageSpeed Insights and check our new website score. All right, so if you guys remember, my old score was 42, which is awful. So now let's go over here and we'll do another page so I can show you guys like a side-by-side. So from 42, we're gonna try and get that number up a little bit. We'll go over to PageSpeed Insights, paste in our URL again, and let's analyze the results. Wow, what a drastic update. So now we've gone from 42 all the way up to an 86. We basically doubled our page speed score performance for our entire website, which is pretty freaking awesome. I will say an 86 still is not in the green, unfortunately. So we're at an 86 and we want to try and hit like a 90 to 100, somewhere in that range. It's not perfect, but that's pretty close, which is pretty good. Now, if you want to get yours from an 86 up to like a 90 or a 100, so you got a really fast performance score, that's where the hard way comes in. And that's where you have to understand what all of this means down below, look at your audit, pay attention to what all these do, and then you have to learn how to go and fix all of those, which I talk about in the second half of this video. So I hope you guys got your answer. The easy way will get you most of the way, but it's always better if you do it yourself. So let's talk about the hard way here pretty soon. Congratulations, your speed has significantly increased. All right, for those of you who are looking for a little bit more insight as to how websites work and how you can speed up your website, let's talk about everything in just a little bit more detail. First of all, I want to say that I've learned a lot about website speed over the years, and one thing that I really want to make clear is that you can't trust any one speed or optimization plugin to fix a poorly built website. Optimization plugins are great, but they're no substitute for thorough and diligent web design. So keep that in mind. The more you learn about your website and how it works, the better you can optimize your website without even needing a plugin. Although, obviously having one of these plugins definitely makes your life so much easier. Let's talk about how things work. So, what even is your website technically? For those of you who don't know how the internet works, your website, contrary to how it actually looks, is actually just a bunch of code on a screen. It actually looks more like this. But your computer knows how to read the code and then displays it in a way that you can understand. Now, that code, which is your website, is stored on a server somewhere that's connected to the internet. And that's actually what web hosting is. It's saving your website files on a server that's connected to the internet. And usually you have to rent that space on the server. The internet, on the other hand, is just a large network of those servers that are all around the world, and and they're all connected to each other so that computers can communicate with any server anywhere in the world. Now, when you create a website and you store it on a server that's connected to the internet, people anywhere in the world can request your website from that server, and it will be sent to their computer wherever they are. Now, that's a very basic understanding of the internet. Right off the bat, knowing that your website is actually just a bunch of codes slapped together, you could surmise that one solution to slow website speeds could be shortening or downsizing that code so that it can send to its destination much faster. This is called minification, which is basically just condensing your website code so that it takes up less space, making it load faster on a server. This is a common option that you can enable on most optimization plugins like WP Rocket or Lightspeed Cache, although in practice, there's a little bit more to it. There's CSS minification, HTML minification, JavaScript minification, but you guys don't have to worry about all that. There's also different types of servers as well. Some servers use Lightspeed technology, while others may use Apache or Nginx. Understanding what server type your website is saved on can also help you speed up your website. For example, Lightspeed servers are the fastest of all the types, and you can download a special plugin called Lightspeed Cache that is built by the same people who made the server technology. This will even further optimize your website. If your website is hosted on a server that doesn't use Lightspeed technology, then you can use a different plugin, for example. It's also important to keep in mind your server type when you're deciding what hosting company that you want to go with. It's widely known and incredibly important that you choose a trustworthy hosting company to host your website. Don't go with just the cheapest option for hosting that you can find, because you can't really expect a great service when you're paying such a low price. Especially be leery of free web hosting, because you're probably not getting the best website speeds, obviously because it's free. So knowing how servers work can already avoid 2 more issues in the future. Now, what if you're viewing your website in America, but the actual physical location of that server where the website is stored is in Europe, for example? That's a long distance, right? Wouldn't it be faster to download your website from a server that's in America if you're in America? Well, now that you have a simple understanding of what the internet is, the most logical answer would be to have a server in America as well as in Europe, depending on where you are, and you would want the website to load from whichever server the client is closest to. And that's what we basically call a CDN, or a content delivery network. Now, long story short, you can sign up for service with one of these CDNs, and you can have your website stored on multiple servers all around the world. And it will automatically send your website to the client from whichever server is closest to them, which reduces the time it takes to load your website. Now, there's a few CDNs out there like Cloudflare that you could totally check out, and some hosting providers also have their own CDN built in, like Hostinger. If you want your website to be faster, you'll definitely want to consider signing up with a CDN. All right, so with all of that knowledge out of the way, let's start talking about what you can actually do to increase your speed of your website rather than just a bunch of hypotheticals. First, we're going to start off with checking your page speed score again. This time, however, instead of just paying attention to the big number on top, we're going to look down below at the audit to see what the PageSpeed Insights is recommending that we change in order to speed up our website. You'll notice that we have 5 or 6 different metrics pop up down below. Now, Jack with Rank Math has an incredible video that's like 30 minutes long explaining in depth what all of these mean and how you can fix them. His video is absolutely amazing and very detail oriented. So if you want a better explanation, you can go check out his video. I'll even leave a link to his video down in the description so you can go check it out, but I'm going to try and summarize his entire 30-minute video in just a few minutes just to simplify things as best as I can for you. We have the first contentful paint, the largest contentful paint, screen index, time to interactive, total blocking time, and the cumulative layout shift. And sometimes I mess that word up. Basically, PageSpeed Insights is just telling us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. So now all we have to do is just fix what we're doing wrong. You might be looking at these and thinking, I have no idea what any of these metrics mean. And that's totally fine. If you just click on Expand View, then you'll be able to tell what they actually mean. The first contentful paint just marks the time at which the first text or image is displayed or painted. The largest contentful paint is just the time it takes for the largest element to display before you start scrolling. The speed index is the time it takes for all the objects at the top of the page to display. The time to interactive just shows the time it takes for a user to be able to actually do something on your website. The total blocking time is basically just the time it takes any elements in between the first contentful paint and the time to interactive to display that exceeds 50 milliseconds. So when you first open your website, and the first object displays, start the timer. As additional objects load on the screen and they take longer than 50 milliseconds to load, you'll just tally that up. And then finally, when someone is able to finally interact with your website and everything is loaded, that's when you stop the timer. Add all of those milliseconds up, and that's the total blocking time. That's how long users were blocked from doing anything because of objects taking more than 50 milliseconds to load in the initial loading time, if that makes any sense. Finally, we have the cumulative layout shift. Have you ever been on a website and you're about to click on a button and then all of a sudden everything shifts down just a little bit, causing you to miss? It's pretty frustrating. This usually happens because there's either an image or a video with unknown dimensions that takes a little too long to load. So basically everything loads on the website, and then you think it's done loading, but then it's actually not done loading. And then it finally loads that last image a few seconds later and shifts everything down last minute. It can also be done by dynamically shifting ads and things like that. This is what cumulative layout shift measures. Now, everything's pretty self-explanatory except for those last two, which are a little bit confusing at first, but trust me, you'll get it. After that, Jack has a brilliant idea of attempting to optimize a blank page first to identify any background issues that might be slowing down your website. Essentially, you create a blank page on your WordPress website, and then you test it on PageSpeed Insights to see if you're getting a good score or not. If it's good, then at least you know that your base website is just fine. If you're getting a bad score, however, you'll want to probably check if you have any issues with like the header or the footer, or if you have some plugins that are slowing down your website in the background. Now, speaking of plugins, after you test the blank page and make some corrections, you can now turn your attention to the plugins on your website. Now, if you've done any research at all online on how to speed up a website, you've probably heard tons of people recommending that you keep the least amount of plugins on your website as possible to make sure it runs smoothly and quick. And that's a good rule of thumb. However, there are cases where you can have a lot of plugins in order for your website to run, and you can still maintain very high page speed scores, like Daryl Wilson, who has like 53 plugins installed on his website, and he still shows that he's making a 99% with PageSpeed Insights. Very impressive. You can still have lots of plugins as long as you do it correctly. Now, that being the case, it would be wise for you to go and double check your plugins to make sure that you don't have any that are causing any unnecessary weight or baggage on your website. Now, Jack with Rank Math had another incredibly smart idea where he says to disable all of your plugins all at once, and then one by one you can enable a plugin on your website and run PageSpeed Insights to see if it has an effect individually on your website. Now, when you do this one by one, activating, checking, and then coming back, you might notice that one of your plugins adds unnecessary size or time to your page speed in megabytes or milliseconds. If that's the case, you can just try downloading a different plugin that does the same function, or you can determine whether or not you can live without it on your website. Everything has a give and take. You're gonna have to choose what you wanna keep at the cost of speed or what you wanna get rid of at the cost of customization. All right, so now that you understand how your website works, how the internet works, and how to read PageSpeed Insights, I'm sure you have a much better understanding of how you can logically work through maintaining best practices when it comes to your website's optimization and page speeds. If you've done any research at all on how to speed up your website, I'm sure that you've heard about the next two tricks that I'm going to talk to you about because they are widely talked about. So I saved them for the very end because I wanted you to get all of the important information first. Let's talk about image optimization and caching. Now, Website Speeds 101 basically teaches that large images are going to slow down your website, and that's entirely true. If you're uploading massive 4K images without optimizing them and then putting them on your website, you're just doing yourself a disservice. There are a few ways that you guys can optimize your images for your website. Now, choosing the correct file format for your image is first up in optimizing your images. You want to try and stick to WebP or AVIF because these are the two file formats that Google recommends that you use on your website because of their compression capability. They can compress your image much better than a JPEG or JPG or something like that. Next, you want to make sure you're paying attention to your image sizes. You don't need to upload your images in 4K. That would take up way too much size and space. Instead, just upload a smaller version to your website. After the file format and size, you also want to make sure that you compress your image even further. You can go to websites like TinyPNG and compress your images for free, while at the same time automatically convert them to WebP if you really need to. Now, I personally optimize all of my images outside of WordPress before I even upload them to my website. But you can also install plugins inside of WordPress that automatically optimize images as you upload them. It's completely up to you. Personal preference. So I usually photo edit all of my images before I put them onto a client website. So I export them from that software in the appropriate sizes and file formats like WebP, and then I just compress them after that. Now, if you want to go the WordPress route and download a plugin that will automatically compress your images, then you can try plugins like Imagify. It optimizes and converts files to WebP from your WordPress workspace. So next, let's talk about caching. When you visit a website, your browser doesn't always fetch everything fresh from the website server. Instead, it stores some of the stuff it's seen before, like images or scripts or even whole web pages, in its own little storage space called a cache. So the next time you visit that site, instead of fetching everything from scratch, your browser checks its cache first. If it finds what it needs there, it's like grabbing a snack from your kitchen instead of running to the store. It's so much faster and easier. Not only is it faster for you, but it also helps ease the load on the website server, making everything smoother for everyone involved. Now, in order to have caching on your website, all you gotta do is just download a caching plugin, which is usually the same thing as downloading any speed or optimization plugin because they all do caching for you. I always recommend Lightspeed Cache if you're on a Lightspeed server, and although you can still use Lightspeed Cache if you're not on a Lightspeed server, I always recommend WP Rocket if you're on a different server type. Either way, both optimization plugins have a caching option, and all you have to do is just enable it and then enable the mobile caching as well, and that's pretty much it. And that's about it. That's everything I can think of to share with you on how to boost the speed of your WordPress website. Now, I've got one more little disclaimer here for you guys. If you guys have been watching my channel or any of my videos, then you probably already know that I always recommend Hostinger and that we have a partnership with them. However, over the past few weeks, I've learned a lot more about website speed and how it works, and I've got to say that while I was prepping to create this video, I realized that Hostinger actually checks all of the boxes. I was actually kind of shocked to see that they cover all of their bases when it comes to website speeds. Now, I'm not trying to sell you on anything right now. I'm just saying that they are quite literally on the ball when it comes to every avenue it takes to make a fast connection. They use HTTP 2 as opposed to HTTP 1, which just means that all of your assets load concurrently rather than sequentially. They've got Lightspeed servers to ensure the fastest communication times. They have their own built-in CDN that they just rolled out, which is really exciting, so you don't have to outsource your CDN services to a third-party company. And their CDN has servers all over the world. Anyways, without trying to talk your ear off, I just wanted to say that I was really impressed that they had every advantage when it comes to providing you with really fast service. Might be something to think about if you're considering purchasing some hosting. Now, if you guys like this video, but you don't even have a website up and running yet for your business, be sure to check out this video right here where I show you how to make a WordPress website from start to finish the simple and easy way. I'll see you in the next video.